Sandy into his windup. Here's the pitch. Swung on and missed a perfect game.
High fly ball into right field. She is gone. In a year that has been so improbable, the impossible has happened. Fernando Valenzuela has pitched a no-hitter. Mikey Kershaw pitches a no-hitter. It is gone. It is a walk-off home run for Justin Turner. It's over. One series, a walk-off home run. This is way back. Walk 'em off. Chris Taylor. It's time for Dodger baseball. Strike three. Dodgers have won it all in 2020. Mookie Betts cranks one left field. Mookie Betts.
They're going to make big signings. They're going to make impact trades. I don't care how many times this team rips my heart out, I'll never stop loving the Los Angeles Dodgers. Think blue, bleed blue, and I'm out.
What is up, Dodgers Nation? Doug McCain here, credentialed member of Dodgers Media. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And welcome to another episode of Dodgers Dugout Live. On today's show, we're going to continue to break down the Dodgers signing of left-handed pitcher James Paxton. I'm going to give you the top 5 reasons why it will be a good signing, why it will work out. I'm also going to give you some causes for concern and why it might not work out. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the Dodgers bullpen and the next move that they should make. What's next for the Dodgers after they shored up their rotation? They've absolutely fortified their rotation. He's the last piece of the puzzle. What does this mean for Clayton Kershaw? Does it mean anything? Because I think it means more for some other pitchers in the Dodgers bullpen and possibly their rotation. We're going to talk about how big of an impact it's going to be on those other guys. Also, very excited to talk about this. We're going to talk about the Hall of Fame. Does Gary Sheffield belong in the Hall? Does he belong in the Hall? Would he go in as a Los Angeles Dodger? Got a really cool question from you guys yesterday on that. All that and more on another jam-packed episode of Dodgers Dugout Live. By the way, if you have not yet, be sure to subscribe to the channel. We are so close to 80,000 subscribers. And the second we get to 80K, you know what that means? That means we're giving away a brand new number 17 authentic Shohei Ohtani Dodgers jersey. We are so close to giving away. And when we do the giveaway, we're going to announce our next giveaway because we're doing giveaways all season long. Jerseys, autographs, tickets. Last night on the post-game show, you guys had some ideas. We'll talk about those. So we're going to get into all of that. And first, though, we got our Dodgers Dugout poll question of the show, and I want to hear from you guys down below on this one. I asked you guys over on the X, what grade would you give the Dodgers signing of James Paxton? Right now, 13% give it an A, 51% give it a B, 32% give it a C, and 4% give it a D. Another poll question, too. Should Gary Sheffield be inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame? Currently, 72% say yes, 28% say no. But let's get right into it. I want to see what you guys have to say the morning after. It was nice to see Andrew Friedman wake up, right, and finally do something this offseason. It had been a couple days since the Dodgers signed a top free agent or made an impact trade. It was nice to see Friedman finally wake up and make a signing, and that signing, of course, is James Paxton. And it was reported that the deal is a one-year contract for $11 million with incentives. It was first reported by Chad Day, who describes himself as a sports fan and a wrestling nerd. Opinions are my own. Not sure why he's in the MLB Insider game, but it was first reported by Chad Day. But $11 million with the incentives. And for me, when you look at this contract, it's similar to what Lance Lynn got, right? It's similar to what you're going to get at this price. And if you look at James Paxton as a player, yes, if you want to be a naysayer, if you want to look at his numbers and talk about his durability issues, those are apparent. Those are undeniable because he has dealt with a slew of injuries in the last couple of seasons. I mean, he's someone who's 35, years old. He's pitched a combined 117 innings over the past 4 seasons combined, and he's coming off the worst season of his big league career. So if you want ammo, that's what you go with. Worst season of his career, has pitched in just 117 innings combined in his last 4 seasons, but I'm looking forward to seeing him post a sub-3 ERA and be the latest Dodgers' successful reclamation project, because that's what I think he has the potential to be. And if you look at James Paxton as a player, we talked about it last night. As a pitcher, he's someone who, when he's right, when he's healthy, he can go out there and be effective. He can be a top 30, 40 pitcher in Major League Baseball. And he's not special at this stage of his career. We're not talking about a Yoshinobu Yamamoto or a Tyler Glasnow or anyone of that ilk, but there is a lot to like when it comes to James Paxton. We're going to get into James Paxton, talk more about this latest signing, what it means for this Dodgers rotation and the bullpen. Will we see a 6-man rotation? What does this mean for these young Dodgers players? But I want to get you guys in the mix here. Let me read your guys' comments down below because you guys are firing away over on YouTube. I see you guys on X. So be sure to keep those comments rolling. I got super producer Jordan right here looking for your comments as always. Okay, here we go. I got my chat up. What's up with Kershaw for the end of the season and the playoffs? That's from Anders Courtson. We're going to talk about Kershaw because I'll put it period point blank. I think this signing has nothing to do with Clayton Kershaw's future. I think it impacts his future with the Dodgers maybe 1%. And that 1% might be, okay, where do I fit in to this rotation if everyone stays healthy? Does he want a more prominent role if he were to sign with the Texas Rangers? I'm here to tell you, I think this move means absolutely nothing. I think the reason why you haven't seen Clayton Kershaw announce that he's re-signing with the Dodgers is that they're waiting. They're waiting till deep into February. That way you can see what you want to do with some of these current players on the Dodgers that you might want to consider trading, like maybe a Ryan Yarbrough. Does he have a clear-cut role for this team moving forward? And Alex Vesia, a Caleb Ferguson, right? If you look at some of those guys, you don't have options on Yarbrough, right? You don't have options on a Ferguson. He has 5 years of service time, right? Vesia, do you trust him on a big stage with some of his inconsistency at times, right? I think the Dodgers have another move in them. Now, as far as Clayton Kershaw goes, if he wants to continue his career pitching in Major League Baseball, the Dodgers are, 1, going to give him the contract he wants, and 2, they're going to do it on his terms. He has earned that right. And I don't think this changes that at all. If anything, it could put less pressure on Kersh because this can make Paxton a stopgap for Kersh if he does ultimately sign a 2-year contract where he returns in 2025 at full strength and pitches an entire full season. So if I'm Kersh, maybe this puts less pressure on me to return faster than I'm ready for, right? I think that this could mean that. But let's keep reading these comments. I don't trust Ferguson. That's from David Ojeda over on Facebook. Kershaw is insurance for injuries or tired pitchers. That's from Craig Osterberg. Bring back Cody. Put him in the corner outfield spot. Ain't happening. Cody Bellinger ain't going to be a Dodger. I think he goes back with the Chicago Cubs. He had a lot of success in Chicago. He's a different hitter now, is more contact-oriented, pursuing a little more bat to ball. The exit velocity numbers aren't anywhere near what they were during his MVP season. So 2019 first half MVP Cody Bellinger ain't walking through that door. But I love Cody Bellinger. By the way, did you see he went wine tasting with Will Smith and Chris Taylor? All their wives, they went wine tasting. Thought that was pretty cool. To me, he is a part of Dodgers history, Dodgers lore forever. If you're going to run down top 10 to 15, 20 moments in Dodgers history, how many of those include Cody Bellinger? The catch stealing Fernando Tatis lunch money in the 2020 NLDS when he robbed him. I can still hear Joe Davis in my ear. A robbery! How iconic was that? How about the go-ahead home run in Game 7 of the 2020 NLCS to get the Dodgers the win over the Braves? Who will forget that bat drop? His home run in the World Series. How about his catch against the Brewers in the 2018 NLCS? How about his walk-off in that series? So lots of moments for Cody Bellinger. How about the game-tying home run he hit in the 2022 NLCS Game 3 to tie that game? That was the loudest that place has been since Juan Uribe's home run in 2013. So we got Fernando Tatis sent me, hey, man, you got to just keep it real, right? He ain't the same without that ringworm cream. He's a really good outfielder, though, and he's still an above-average bat. We got Sal Garcia. Why everyone hating on Vesia and Ferguson, only two lefties that are reliable? I don't necessarily think that's the word I would use to describe them. I think they have their stretches. I think that with Alex Vesia, when he's right, there's no doubt about it, he can go out there and be effective. And we're going to talk about that coming up in the next segment. We got, what up, Joe Mama? We got Why Not Snell. I think Snell ends up with, I think the Angels are going to cheap out. The Giants should really go out there and sign Snell and Chapman. But let's dive deeper into James Paxton, because that's the newest Dodger. I mean, James Paxton, someone who has had a lot of success in this league, has dealt with injuries, but let's talk about the good with James Paxton. Let's talk about the success that he's had. And the first reason why this signing could turn out to be a good signing is that he's had success in his career for long stretches. And from 2016 to 2019, when he was on the Yankees and the Mariners, he posted a 3.6 ERA. He posted a 3.16 FIP. That was good for 9th in all of Major League Baseball. His FIP was top 10 in the sport from 2016 to 2019. He posted a 341 expected FIP. That was good for 16th. His K per 9 was 10.57. That was good for 13th. His strikeout to walk ratio was at 21.7%. That was good for 12th. So what James Paxton has proven during his career is that when he's right and when he's healthy, he can be a top 15 to 20 to 30 pitcher. And for a team like the Dodgers that already has a embarrassment of pitches, as I like to say, the murderer's rotation with a Yamamoto and a Glasnow and a Walker Buehler, who they might push back the start of his season. This helps that. You get some more depth. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see Buehler to start the year, and maybe we see him closer to May. That's a possibility. Well, you have a proven starter. You have depth to be able to manage that if you have to go that route. So first thing with Paxton, he's someone that has had success in this league. I see a lot of comments down below for Dunn. Yeah, if you want to win the Ohtani jersey, just a reminder, you only have to do two things. It's the easiest thing you could do to have a new jersey. You have to subscribe to the channel, #1 Dodgers YouTube channel, #1 show here, Dodgers Dugout Live, and make sure you comment Done down below. We got James, Tyler Anderson, Paxton. Yeah, I love that. Daniel Mueller. And we'll talk about that in a second. Now, second reason why I think that this signing is going to be more Tyler Anderson than it's going to be Noah Syndergaard is that you don't have to work a miracle with Paxton, right? You don't have to be a miracle worker like you had to do with Noah Syndergaard. Like I said last night, the only way to get Noah Syndergaard back to being what he was, for him to be effective, would have been if you found a way to get Doc Brown's DeLorean from Back to the Future and go back to 2017. Go back to when he was an effective pitcher, because that version of Noah Syndergaard was never walking through that door. And he was coming off Tommy John surgery, but he also suffered a lat injury that hurt his velocity before that. And like I said last night, Noah Syndergaard, he was Cinder gone. Thor was a thud. He was an absolute bust. He was the couch on the side of the road that has the free sign on it, right? They were able to get Rosario out of it, which was an absolute miracle, but he was gone. He was the worst pitcher in Dodgers history at one stretch during his career here, right? So it was never going to happen. The difference between Paxton, though, is Syndergaard is velocity reliant. For Syndergaard to be effective, he has to hit 97, 98. He doesn't have good enough stuff, good enough secondary pitches, and good enough to command, really, to miss bats to where he could go out there and be effective. Well, Paxton, last season, he averaged 95.2 miles per hour on his four-seam fastball. He can still touch 97 on the gun, and that's just slightly below his velocity from the 3 seasons before the surgery. And he also mixes in a curveball. He mixes in a cutter. So from a velocity standpoint, he still has that post-surgery, post all of these injuries. Now, one thing I do want to point out is just looking at his baseball savant page, I think one thing that you're going to see them try to fix with Paxton, other than just looking at the release points, looking at the mechanics, trying to smooth things out, trying to optimize the way he attacks hitters, is I think you're going to see them try to get the velocity up on that cutter, because the velocity on the four-seam fastball is consistent. It's there, and that's a pitch that he throws primarily, but the cutter has been one of his go-to put-away pitches. Last season, he averaged 85.8 miles per hour on the cutter. During his peak in 2016 to 2019, the velocity on that cutter sat around 89 miles per hour. So I guess the first thing I want to see from Paxton and Dr. Mark Pryor and the pitching lab is, how do we get the velocity up on the cutter? I think that is going to allow him to be more effective. So they don't need to completely change someone, right? They don't need to work a miracle for Paxton, and they just need him to stay healthy. I think he's more Tyler Anderson, more Andrew Freeney, more Andrew Heaney, and more Andrew Heaney and less Noah Syndergaard. So there's that stopgap for Kersh. Also, the Dodgers get the left-hander they desperately needed. They needed a left-hander. They needed a left-handed pitcher to bring some balance to this starting rotation, a very right-handed heavy starting rotation. And to have that different look, it's going to provide that. And having Paxton in the fold is something that accomplishes that. So look, that's the good. Stuff's there, velocity's there. His stuff plus, if you look at the stuff plus metric, the stuff plus was a little down. I do think that getting the velo back on the cutter is going to improve that. I think you'll see them just make some tweaks to their release point, to the mechanics, and they're going to go over every single thing, and I guarantee they already have, and they're going to start the process. And we're going to see the best version of a 35-year-old James Paxton at this stage of his career. Now, we got to talk about the bad. What is the bad? How could it not work out, right? Well, you could sit there and say, man, the Dodgers, they'll be lucky to get 40 to 50 innings out of him before he falls apart. Because to start the season last year, he had a really good start to his season. He missed the first couple weeks due to a hamstring strain. He made his first start there in May, but up until the All-Star break, his first 10 starts of the 2023 season, he posted a 2.73 ERA. He had a 3.46 expected FIP. He was striking out 29.1% of the batters that he had faced. So if you can get anything close to that, a sub-3 ERA, a sub-4 FIP, this is going to be a solid signing. Now, unfortunately, he struggled mightily after that. He was dealing with right knee inflammation that sent him back to the IL. He didn't even get a chance to finish his season, had issues with command, and that really is why, as a whole, the ERA really struggled down the stretch, and he didn't put together a really good season. I mean, he had a 4.5 ERA and 96 innings of work, made 19 starts, a 24.6% strikeout rate. Just that's slightly above average, an 8% walk rate. So if you look at his season in totality, you're not saying, wow, what a signing this is. This is great. This is not dumpster diving. This is not scraping the bottom of the barrel. I'm here to tell you it's not, because he still was around league average, and you just need more of the first half version of James Paxton, not the second half, not the post All-Star break. And that's really what it comes down to, is he is injury prone. There's no way to sugarcoat this. He missed the first 6 weeks of the season with a right hamstring strain. Then he missed the final 6 weeks due to right knee inflammation. So started the season with the injury. He ended the season with an injury, right? You need to fix that. And from 2020 to 2023, he's made just 25 starts. In those 25 starts, he's posted a 4.9 ERA, a 4.60 FIP. Not only has he undergone Tommy John surgery, he's been on the IL with a left flexor strain. And in his 11 years in Major League Baseball, he has never pitched enough innings to qualify for statistics, to qualify for the leaderboard. So in his 11 seasons, he's never qualified that is something that if you want to look at this in a negative light, you could point to that. And last season, like I said, he had the strong stretches, then he struggled down the stretch. But I think him inside this Dodgers organization, why it makes a ton of sense is, do you really need an innings eater? Yes, it would be nice depending on the current state of your farm system. But I think with Paxton, I think you just want him to be really solid. Hopefully you get around 20 starts and he performs at an above average level when he's out there. And the only reason why he's not effective is because of his health issues. If that's all it is for the Dodgers, you can live with that. You can live with, okay, Paxton wasn't good because he was injured. But what you can't live with, it's just he was a bust because he didn't have the stuff. He didn't have the velocity, the command, the ability to get out hitters. That isn't the case with Paxton. That was the case with Syndergaard. Syndergaard, he was healthy enough to pitch. He just wasn't a good pitcher, right? That's not the case with Paxton. So I like it. I think it's a solid move. Based on the fact it's $11 million with some incentives on a one-year contract. Remember, kids, no such thing as a bad one-year contract. Look at the deal for Noah Syndergaard. $13 million. He was a bust. How did that impact the Dodgers this offseason? It didn't at all whatsoever. You went out there, you signed Ohtani, you signed Yamamoto, you committed over $1 billion to players. It didn't mean a thing. So it's on a one-year deal. I think it's more than likely that you'll see him penciled in there as that back-end starter. I think we'll see them work in a six-man rotation at times where you see some of the young guys pick up some spots. But look, I mean, you talk about a franchise in the Los Angeles Dodgers that have put together this masterpiece. Said it last week, right? They're the billionaire, the mansion, the Rolls Royce, the private jet, the island in the Maldives, the ticket to outer space, and they continue to get greedy. Like Gordon Gekko said, greed is good. And they know that despite all the talent that they have, that you have to account for the questions. You have to account for Buehler coming back his second major arm surgery, Bobby Miller coming down and avoiding a sophomore slump and having a second season in the show, Clayton Kershaw possibly returning, looking at guys like Yamamoto adjusting to the show, Glass now having his injury issue. So there's all those things, and they accounted for that by bringing in a veteran starter that has a ton of upside, that has shown the ability to be effective when he avoids injury. And then on top of that, you can't even look at it as just $11 million. I like this. That's a fire take from David. Cole Hamels was great. Cole Hamels should have his number retired. Cole Hamels is a Dodgers legend. There's no doubt about that. Love me some Cole Hamels. But not only do they have to pay him that amount of money in $11 million plus the incentives, but that takes their payroll, which is at $301 million. Just look at what it's ballooned to now. I mean, you're talking about this Dodgers team that is setting records, for how much money they've spent. Before that, it was at $301 million. Now you're around $313 million. That puts them past the big bad New York Yankees. Remember, Dodgers are the new Yankees. We're what the Yankees used to be. And then you're right there with the New York Mets and Stephen Cohen. And with that comes a very expensive tax bill. And the Dodgers, they're right up there in that final tier when it comes to facing those penalties. They've gone past that threshold. They've absolutely just blown past it. And when you get there, you're taxed at a 110% rate because the Dodgers have gone past the luxury tax for the last couple of seasons. So with this Paxton's deal, you're looking at a tax of $25.2 million total if you look at his contract. So they're having to spend over $25 million just to get Paxton for over $11 million, but that's how committed to winning this Dodgers team is. They've spent a bazillion dollars this offseason, and yeah, that $12 million looks like a drop in the bucket, but when you consider the tax implications, yeah, you just have to really give a lot of credit to this organization, say they're putting their money where their mouth is and they're putting depth where they need it. Now, as far as who this impacts, Does this impact Clayton Kershaw? I've already told you, I don't think it does. Talked about it last night. If you look at the Texas Rangers, they need starting pitching to start the year. They're trying to get guys back. The Mahle, the Scherzers, the DeGroms. They're trying to get guys back. They don't need a Kershaw to start the year. They need him to start the year. They don't need him at the end of the year, right? And that's when he's going to get back. So I still think that Kersh is going to be back with the Dodgers. I think they're strategically waiting until early February. So it gives them enough time to explore trades to upgrade their roster. You don't have to DFA guys because you can have these guys move to the 60-day IL. You're going to see May and Gonsolin, and if they sign Kersh, he'll be signed and moved to that 60-day IL. So they're being strategic from that standpoint, and that's the only reason why I don't think we've seen the announcement about Clayton Kershaw. I still say what I've said this entire time. If Clayton Kershaw is going to continue his career, it's going to be with the Dodgers. This does nothing to change that. I think he still realizes that for as much talent as this team has, there are going to be injuries. It's inevitable. He could still find a role, and I think that he's going to embrace whatever role the Dodgers are going to have for him. And I think it's Clayton Kershaw. Would not be shocked at all if he has a better year than some of these current guys just because of the kind of competitive fire that he has and the commitment he has to his craft. But that won't be until late 2024 at the very earliest if we ever see him at all. Wouldn't be shocked if we see him for the first time in 2025. That's just how this stuff kind of breaks. But I think the two pitchers that this signing impacts the most is Ryan Yarbrough and Emmett Sheehan. Because Emmett Sheehan is someone who had a breakout season for the Dodgers, had extremely high highs. You saw him flirting with that no-hitter in his debut against the Giants, and you saw the explosive stuff. Also had some down appearances. The one against Texas, against the Rangers in Texas comes to mind, but his stuff is electric. His stuff is lights out, but it was a little unrealistic to think that he was going to be your your number 5 starter for the entire season. I think you're going to see Sheehan in more of a swingman role. I think they're going to put him in spots where you can use him as a starter. At times, you can use him out of the bullpen as a multi-inning reliever at times. Hell, you could probably even see him in a high-leverage spot getting an inning or two. But I think they're going to maintain that flexibility with Emmett Sheehan and not try to rush him along, not try to force him into a starter's workload, considering how inexperienced he is with that at this level. So I think it impacts him, and I also think it impacts Ryan Yarbrough. And Ryan Yarbrough is someone who, he's solid, right? Ryan Yarbrough is someone that can absolutely help teams in Major League Baseball. He helped the Dodgers. He was a really, really solid pickup for them when they needed pitching. But let's put things into perspective here. When they needed him, it's when this Dodgers team was an absolute tire fire. They were a dumpster fire, one of the worst pitching performances in years we've ever seen from this organization, right? They're not as desperate as they were. And what is his role? What is his role on this team? Now, you had another lefty. Now you have 4 lefties on that 40-man roster. But I just don't see a role for Yarbs. I mean, if you look at the season he had with the Dodgers, he definitely had some really nice moments. He had a 3.12 ERA, a 3.57 FIP through 34 2/3 innings, and he held opponents to a 244 opponents batting average. That's really, really solid considering that he was pretty bad with the Royals. With the Royals, he struggled, and they were done with him. I mean, with the Royals, he really struggled last season, and he put his season together and helped the Dodgers win a division title. I mean, they really probably wouldn't have gotten to 100 wins without Ryan Yarbrough, but I just don't know if there's a safe spot to say, okay, he's someone that's going to help in the postseason. He doesn't have that electric, miss bat, dominant level stuff. Now, the positives for him is he can go multiple innings. He can miss barrels and induce soft contact. And there's definitely a place for him in this league. I mean, just look at the moment that comes to mind for me with Yarbrough was he was the guy on the mound there. He pitched 4 2/3 innings, had 7 punch outs as the incredible bulk innings man against the Seattle Mariners when the Dodgers clinched the NL West title. So as a whole, I think that if you could trade Ryan Yarbrough, I think there's teams that see what he did with the Dodgers, see his ability to go multiple innings. I would look to try to move Yarbrough or possibly Vesia or Ferguson to see what you could get. Because here's the thing. I still don't feel like the Dodgers have the left-handed high leverage guy that they need, right? Do they truly have the high leverage lefty that you could trust in the postseason? Because we saw in the DS in 2021, right? We see Caleb Ferguson. He'll go through long stretches where he's consistent, and then you'll see him struggle to land that curveball in the zone, struggle with arm side command. And I just think you can ill afford to have that if you are the Dodgers. And on top of that, from a roster flexibility standpoint, do they truly have all of their arsenal when it comes to, look, we have these young guys, right? We have the Kyle Hertz, we have the Michael Groves, we have Landon Knack, we have Gavin Stone, we have Nick Frasso, we have Ricky Vanasco, right? There's guys that can help in the bullpen, but when you look at how the Dodgers could option some of these guys out during the season, where do you go for the options? I mean, you're never going to option Evan Phillips, but even so, you couldn't, right? Brusdar Graterol, you could option him. You're not. He's your second best high leverage arm right now. Joe Kelly, you can't option Joe Kelly. That's not happening. Ryan Yarbrough, he has no options. Blake Trinan, he has no options. Caleb Ferguson, he has 5 years of service time. He has no options. JP Fireeisen, Vanasco, Varland, Vesia, those guys all have options, but you look at that bullpen, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys you will not be optioning. And if you're talking about a 6-man rotation, if you're talking about having those 8 spots in the bullpen and giving some of these young guys the opportunity to go out there and perform to get the necessary reps that they need, the young pitchers we just mentioned, I think you're going to want to probably get a little more flexibility. That could mean a Caleb Ferguson, and that could mean a Alex Vesia. But Vesia you could option. It's just the ups and downs. I mean, he's someone who sometimes he looks like he's the best left-handed reliever in the game, and then sometimes he looks like he's about as reliable as the ice cream machine at McDonald's, right? That's the variance with Alex Vesia at times. And I love me some Alex Vesia when he's right. Don't get me wrong, but this team does not have time to mess around. And I think all of these signings, going out there and get Teoscar Hernandez after the moves you made because you knew you needed a power-hitting right-handed bat that can rake against lefties, a all-star silver slugger caliber that has a hose for an arm that's improving defensively every single year. To go out and do that. And now you had the possibility of saying, okay, we're going to give these young guys a chance. We're going to give these young guys a chance and see if they can fill out this rotation. Nope, they went out there and they got a veteran starter on a 1-year contract that, to me, has a lot of upside, and you see what the Dodgers saw in him. They know they can increase the velocity on that cutter. They know that the four-seam fastball velocity is where it was. They see the strikeout numbers when he's healthy. So I think that this team has one more move in them. One more move. Now, if it happens before the season or during the season, that's the big question. But as Robert Murray pointed out on his podcast, MLB Insider, the Marlins are open for business. The Marlins are going to listen to offers. Can you get Tanner Scott? Can you find a way to absolutely tie a bow on this offseason by adding, in my opinion, outside of Josh Hader, the best left-handed reliever in the sport as far as high leverage, the strikeout numbers, how effective he was. Emmanuel Clase, he might become available during the season. I don't anticipate a preseason trade of Emmanuel Clase. So that's who I think it impacts most. I think it impacts Ryan Yarbrough. I think it impacts Emmett Sheehan. As far as getting Paxton, I see the haters out there. He's going to pitch 40 to 50 innings, and then he's going to be trash. He's going to be washed. He's going to be the next Noah Syndergaard. Guess what? The benefit of that, the pro in that, is that, yeah, 40 to 50 innings would be awful. That'd be a disaster. But if you do get 100, 120, anything in that range, close to 20 starts, that opens things up to give these young guys the opportunities that they need. You need to water those seeds down there in the farm, right? And at some point, those seeds, those trees aren't going to get bigger unless you get the experience. And there's no currency for that, right? You need to give Kyle Hurt, Emmett Sheehan, Michael Grove, Landon Knack, Nick Frosso, these guys need their opportunities to, one, see if they can be effective and be weapons for this team this year, which I think Kyle Hurt's so good, right? He's going to hurt a lot of feelings on the mound when he's dominating hitters. I think Kyle Hurt's going to be that guy. I have all the faith in the world that he's going to emerge as a weapon for the Dodgers. You need to see, can he be that guy, or what do we use this player for? What is his role next season? Other teams in Major League Baseball are looking at the Dodgers saying, okay, we've heard all this stuff about how they have a surplus of pitching, but they want to go out there and sign innings eaters instead of giving these guys opportunities to pitch. Why would I want that guy on my team if you don't even believe in them? The Dodgers are, I think, showing them that they're going to be flexible and you're going to see these young guys get more opportunities because Paxton isn't necessarily that innings eater, that Shane Bieber, that type that they could have potentially signed. So I want all your thoughts on James Paxton. Do you give it an A, B, C, or D? I think when you consider the price, the potential, the players they already do have, I still give this a B of a signing. A B of a signing, I think, has all the potential to be the next great reclamation project. I think the reclamation projects are going by years, right? Even year reclamation projects. Off years, the uneven year was 2023. That was when it was Syndergaard. Even years, though, we had Tyler Anderson. He is going to be the Tyler Anderson type. And we could also see a piggyback situation, too, with him, right? Like what Tyler Anderson did when he started going from a starter to a bullpen piece. You saw him mixing things up with a Tony Gonsolin, went from the bullpen, went to the starter's role, and ate a ton of innings. So when I get down below in that comment section, welcome here to Dodgers Dugout Live. If you are not subscribed, be sure to do so. We are so close to 80K. That means Ohtani jersey time. Justin Lamas Paxton is a Boris client. Hopefully, this improves our relationship with Boris so we can sign Burns next year for $330 million. Haha. I like it, Justin Lamas. Always thinking 10 moves ahead. And we've seen short-term deals with Scott Boras. Last year, for example, you have JD Martinez. JD Martinez, what did he do? 30-plus home runs, 100-plus RBIs, makes the All-Star team, set himself up for another bite at the apple and another multi-year contract. I think he signs possibly with the Diamondbacks. We could see JD Martinez in this division. We got C-plus from NS. We got N-Rocks gives it a D. Roy Estrada gives it a B+. JR gives it a C-. Nick Shrunk, this is an A. Cheap, no prospects, short-term, need left-handed pitching. That's a fire take, and I'll add to that, how about this? It's always that second year, right? The further removed you get from Tommy John surgeries, from major injuries, then you start to see the benefits. You start to feel more like the pitcher you were. The feel is back. The confidence is back. The velocity returns to form. And that's what you're getting in James Paxton. He's further removed from these injuries. Last season, right knee inflammation, that can be an issue. Hamstring, that can be an issue. But you have to bet on the Dodgers training staff. And what we've seen with this Dodgers team, they will roll the dice on upside, knowing that, hey, if it's all about on us, if it's our responsibility to try to keep this guy healthy, right? We don't want him sending his mail to the IL because he lives there. If it's our responsibility to keep him healthy, we'll work on that. If it's our responsibility to make some mechanical adjustments, we'll do that. They will roll the dice on upside. It's exactly what they're doing with this move. And as you point out, too, it's on a one-year contract, and you don't have to part ways with prospects, right? The prospects are valuable. The prospects can be contributors. You can use them for trade chips. And when you have the financial muscle the Dodgers have, remember, they're Amazon. What do you want? You want prospects. You want money. You want catching prospects. You want pitching prospects. We got it all here at the Dodgers Megastore, right? They have that. So could not agree with you more. It's a fantastic take. We got Mr. Seabed. Pax deal gets an A. It's a one-year deal, and all the one-year deals are A's. Mr. Seabed, that's a fire take as well. And here's the thing, though. It's a one-year deal for $11 million because he has dealt with injuries, right? Because there's a big scratch, there's a big dent on the Mercedes, right? And that hurts its value. That allows you to get a discount on it. If you didn't have the injuries, he'd be a multi-year contract guy. Look at what Lugo got, right? Look at what Walk got. I mean, look at what some of these guys are getting. The reason why they're able to take a risk on this upside is because he has the injuries. Because I wouldn't love this was on a multi-year deal. On the same token, him on a multi-year deal wouldn't fit into what the Dodgers are trying to build, right? You have Ohtani returning next year. Roki Sasaki could be in the fold. There's some drama with him and his club in the MPB, the Chibalote Marines. We'll talk about that maybe sometime, maybe a little later today. We got, yo, what up? Beer Selma. A-, he's going to be our number 5, probably one of the best 5s in the league. You said it best too, JJ. I mean, how many teams is he a 3 for? How many teams are there games where he pitches like a 2? I mean, he had a 9 strikeout game. He had a no-hitter in his career. He's never been an all-star game. He's never received Cy Young votes. But you're absolutely correct that he's our number 5, right? And yes, the injury concerns are there. I've listed them off to you throughout this show. And I'd be lying to you if I didn't tell you that that was not a concern for me. The injuries are a concern, but you pointed out he's your 5. He doesn't need to be your 1. Right? If he's a car, he's a Jaguar. Nice luxury car. It's great to drive around town with it, but he ends up in the shop, right? Well, guess what? You can afford to own that luxury, and that Jaguar can spend time in the shop because you already have a Ferrari in garage number 1 in Yamamoto, right? You have a Lamborghini in garage number 2 in Tyler Glasnow. You have Walker Buehler, Bugatti Bueller, if he returns to form in garage number 3. You have another Bugatti in Bobby Miller in garage number 4, right? And then you have all these other guys out here on their learner's permits, right? These younger players, these Sheehan's, these guys that are on their learner's permits, but they're getting their license too, right? So you can afford to have that car that can spend time in the shop because it's not your only whip, right? It's not your only car. You don't need that 1990 Civic. You don't need that 1998 Camry to throw 200 innings and drive 200,000 miles because you have a lot of depth already. So could not agree with you more. That's the greatest way to put this into perspective. The best way to put this into perspective is to realize that he's your number 4 or 5, not your 1, 2, or 3. And then he's also a lefty. He also has upside. He also brings a lot to the table as well on a 1-year contract. So should we trade for more international money for Roki? That's from Roy Miranda. Look, I think that if they think they need to, Roy, they will, right? Roki Sasaki, he's Andrew Friedman's next big white whale, right? He's the next big whale that he's after. He already got his Ohtani, right? You saw the picture of him smiling when I talked about Ohtani. Next time I talk to Friedman, I'm going to ask him specifically at Roki Sasaki, and we'll check the grin because I'm sure his face is going to be hurting by how much he's going to be smiling. You've seen the videos of him interacting with him over there. I think that clearly that is what they're trying to do is get him. Paxton is Tyler Anderson with more swing and miss. That's a fire take. That's a fire take. I mean, think about Paxton and Anderson. Anderson had a funky delivery, right? He had those different arm slots that he could go in. And also, the thing about Tyler Anderson is he found a new grip to his changeup and went back to a grip, and you were seeing all that vertical movement down on the zone and almost seeing almost a Giolito style where you're going up in the zone and you can hit those strikes at the bottom of the zone. So that's the thing, too, is are you going to see a different pitch, right? Are you going to work in a slider? I think it's more so getting the velo back on that cutter, mastering the command on the four-seam fastball. But Paxton B+, when he's on a deal, there's no bad one-year deal. Thank you very much. I give it a WTF from Cobra Commander. Cobra Commander is not feeling that deal. A B+ from Robert Prado. Friedman called Boris into his office and told Boris to bend the knee. That's from Mr. Seed over there on Twitter. The new Danny Duffy. Oh, come on now. Because guess what? I think he's going to throw one pitch. Okay? Danny Duffy, do we even know he exists? He is the Easter Bunny of Dodger baseball. He is the Loch Ness Monster of Dodger baseball. He is Santa Claus, who I found out last month isn't real, of Dodger baseball. But we got Paxton moving along with Walker B. Hello, D and hello, D-Mac. What up, Diane Schroeder? Always repping, always rock with us. The fairy godmother of the Dodgers Nation YouTube channel. We got Steven. Gary Sheffield's numbers are good for the Hall of Fame. 500, 250 club is real good. Yeah, I'm going to talk about Sheff after the break here. But I want to get all your takes on Paxton. Hopefully we get an official signing announcement at some point today. D-Mac, Roki Sasaki jersey giveaway when? Hey, let's pump the brakes. Can we give away a Yamamoto first? Can we give away a Glasnow first? Hernandez, but Roki Sasaki in Dodger blue. That is what I'm dreaming about. I went from saying my Ohtani prayers to saying my Sasaki prayers because, like I said, typically with pitchers and injuries. You're not going to see a pitcher be the number one overall prospect on the planet, but I think with him, it's fair to say he is. What did he wear for? I think his jersey number for the WBC was 14. What was his number for the Marines? Is it 17, I believe, too, right? So last time I checked, 17 is in use, and that is by Mr. Shohei Ohtani. But coming up next, we've got some more on what the Dodgers are going to do next. Should they bring back Ryan Brazier? What should they do with this bullpen? But I want to talk about my favorite player growing up, Gary Sheffield, and why he deserves to be inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame and why he could go in as a Dodger. That's coming up next here on Dodgers Dugout Live. What up, Dodgers Nation? D-Mac here. I'm here to remind you that if you have not yet, be sure to subscribe to the #1 Dodgers YouTube channel for all latest Dodgers news, rumors, hype videos, interviews, breakdowns, live streams, and more all year long. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and if you really want to help the channel out, smash that like button. Also, you will not be eligible for any of our giveaways unless you are subscribed to the channel. So all you need to do to be eligible for all of our giveaways is just make sure that you are subscribed. We just gave away a brand new authentic Mookie Betts jersey valued at over $350. And we got tons of giveaways coming this offseason. So be sure to be subscribed so you are eligible to win. And as always, think blue, bleed blue, and please subscribe. And welcome back to Dodgers Dugout Live. Here in our final segment, today we are going to learn about Gary Sheffield. Will Gary Sheffield make the Hall of Fame? Will he get enough votes to be enshrined in his last year of eligibility on the ballot? It's his 10th year. Now, just a little rewind on Gary Sheffield, because if you did not mimic Gary Sheffield's swing, if you did not mimic the iconic bat wag, if you did not mimic this, you are lying to yourself. I don't care what it is. If it is the wrapping paper cardboard in Christmas, if it is a bat of any kind, if it is a broomstick, I don't care what it is. If it's in my hand, I'm doing the Gary Sheffield all day, every day. That bat waggle, so iconic. And he said it allowed him to just get in and punch the ball. And the first thing I want to say about Gary Sheffield is you have players that hate baseball in Anthony Rendon, and then you have players that hate baseballs in Gary Sheffield. This guy was a professional murderer of baseballs. But it wasn't just that. It wasn't just the fact that he had 509 career home runs. It wasn't just the fact that he had 253 stolen bases. Now, you look at that combination right there. 509 home runs, 253 stolen bases. You know how many players in the history of Major League Baseball have had over 500 home runs and over 250 stolen bases? The list goes Barry Bonds, Alex Rodriguez, Willie Mays, and Gary Sheffield. Only 4 players. He's also one of 6 players in baseball history that has recorded 2,600 hits, 500 home runs, and 200 stolen bases. The other 5, Hank Aaron, Bonds, Mays, Frank Robinson, and A-Rod. How about this? One of my favorite things about Gary Sheffield, he never struck out more than 100 times in a season. Never once in 22 years. Now it's the cool thing. Now it's, I don't want to strike out. I want the on-base percentage, right? Back then, if you look at his numbers, this was someone that was hitting for power and hitting for average before it was in vogue, right? This is someone who, for his career, in 10,947 plate appearances, he has struck out 1,171 times. So in over 10,000 plate appearances, almost 11,022 seasons, across 22 seasons, 1,171 strikeouts. Just to put that into perspective, Aaron Judge in 8 seasons has struck out 1,038 times. If you look at his numbers, there's no doubt about it. Gary Sheffield is a Hall of Famer. Gary Sheffield is one of the best players in the history of Major League Baseball, and he deserves to be there. A 60.5 career B-WAR. That is higher than 60 other currently enshrined Hall of Famers. His O-WAR is 6th all-time for right fielders. There is no metric that you could show me that wouldn't suggest that he deserves to be a lock to be a Hall of Famer. So, why is he in the Hall of Fame? Well, we know why. He admitted to being involved with steroids, right? To doing steroids in 2002. Now, was that the only year that he did it? I'm not so sure. There's no way to prove that. But I think with Gary Sheffield, can you really say that he doesn't belong? If you look at the steroid era, Bonds, Clemens, Sammy Sosa, I think probably wouldn't even make it. But if you look at the Hall of Fame, it's not the Hall of Fame, it's the Hall of Hypocrisy. The Hall of Fame to me is an illegitimate organization. Yeah, it's great. I'm happy for players that are in. It's definitely an incredible honor. But the reality with the Hall of Fame is this. If the aliens came down to planet Earth and they wanted to know about Major League Baseball and they went to the Hall of Fame does not tell the story of Major League Baseball. You can't tell the story of baseball without Pete Rose and Barry Bonds and Gary Sheffield and these players that have made the game what it is. And then on top of that, wait a second, who is on the Hall of Fame ballot? Who is someone that has made the Hall of Fame? Well, there's players that are in that have done steroids, that have benefited from steroids. The fact that you have a commissioner in Bud Selig being in the Hall of Fame turns it from the Hall of Fame to the Hall of Hypocrisy. Because Bud Selig, he benefited from guys like Gary Sheffield, guys like Barry Bonds, guys like Sammy Sosa. He looked the other way when the steroid era was at its peak, when these guys looked like freaking comic book superheroes and they were hitting 70-plus home runs. Why did he do that? Well, because Bud Selig absolutely botched baseball in the mid-90s, and he handled that horribly and was one of the big reasons why you had the strike. You canceled the World Series. Well, guess what? Bud Selig benefited from steroids. Bud Selig did not stop it. Bud Selig could have incorporated testing. He could have stopped the steroids epidemic in baseball, but he chose not to. Why did he do that? Well, because the steroid era led to Mark McGwire versus Sammy Sosa. And what did that do? It made people forget about the strike of the mid-90s. It made people forget about how incompetent Bud Selig was as a commissioner. It saved baseball from a revenue standpoint, from an attendance standpoint, from a television rating standpoint. He looked the other way when they were doing steroids, and now the players are the scapegoats, when the reality is Bud Selig has no business in the Hall of Fame if Gary Sheffield and Barry Bonds aren't. It's the Hall of Hypocrisy. The Hall of Fame is an illegitimate organization, in my opinion, because it does not tell the story of baseball. It's a fraud if Bud Selig is in the Hall of Fame. He benefited from it. Now the players have to be the scapegoats. I think it's an absolute sham. Now, as far as Gary Sheffield, would he go into the Hall of Fame as a Dodger or a Marlin? He played more games with the Marlins than he did with the Dodgers. I think it was like 23 games to be exact. Yeah, no, 32. So he played 32 games with the Marlins, 32 more games with the Marlins, but he did hit 129 home runs with the Dodgers and 122 home runs with the Marlins. Now, his best season as far as OPS plus and OPS was the 96 years, age 27 season with the Marlins, where he had a 189 OPS plus. He finished 6th in the MVP voting, won the Silver Slugger, had a 1,090 OPS, hit 314. But if you look at what he did with the Dodgers, well, first and foremost, when the Dodgers made that trade, right, you traded Mike Piazza and Todd Zeile. You got Johnson. You got Sheffield back. You added Bobby Bonilla. You had Eisenreich. You added $80 million in salary. Gary Sheffield, for those next couple of seasons, was better than Mike Piazza in virtually every statistical category. I mean, if you look at his time with the Dodgers, Gary Sheffield was chef's kiss. A 998 OPS, a 160 OPS plus. He slashed 312, 424, 573, hit for power, didn't strike out a ton, was absolutely vicious at the back. Remember what I said? There's guys who hate baseball, Anthony Rendon, and there's guys who hate baseballs. That's Gary Sheffield. He was a professional murderer of baseballs. I think he absolutely deserves a spot in the Hall of Fame. I think that if he wants to go in as a Dodger, that'd be great. Even if it doesn't happen, I would just love to see it because Gary Sheffield is iconic. Like I said, show me one person who's a baseball fan, 90s and 2000, that doesn't have the bat wag. I actually have a Gary Sheffield story. and I'll never forget this. If you remember in 1997 when Brian Johnson hit that home run for the Giants against the Dodgers, and of course the Dodgers, they collapsed and they didn't win the NL West that year. I was a young guy, elementary school. I had purchased tickets to that first round where the Dodgers were supposed to play the Marlins. The Marlins would go on to win that World Series. Shout out to Craig Counselor beating the team now known as the Guardians, right? I actually had tickets to that series, and back then you had the hard copy of tickets. So since the Dodgers didn't get in, you actually had to return them to yourself at Dodger Stadium. You had to go to Dodger Stadium and return those tickets. How painful is that? You get your heart broken because your team loses to your rival. Johnson hit that big home run, that walk-off shot that really was the beginning of the end for the Dodgers. That year they collapsed down the stretch. And on top of that, you have to return those playoff tickets. Well, I remember being with my mom. It's like a Tuesday afternoon. She let me skip school because I was like, at least let me go to Dodger Stadium. We get there, and I see Gary Sheffield in a bucket hat, convertible black Porsche, probably like a 911 Carrera, something like that. I run up to Gary Sheffield. I'm losing my mind. I'm talking for like 2 straight minutes. Gary Sheffield, my favorite player, the best player, doing the bat wag, doing all this stuff. Gary Sheffield. I just went on and on and on. And then first thing he says, man, shouldn't you be in school? Why aren't you in school? And he autographed my hat, and I returned the tickets. And then I cried when the Dodgers didn't make the postseason that year. But I absolutely think that Gary Sheffield should be the Hall of Fame. And I think, like I said, the Hall of Fame with Bud Selig in it is an absolute joke. But that's going to do it for this episode of Dodgers Dugout Live. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. If you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell. Hit that like button. We'll be back with you later. We'll talk about Brazier and when we get the official announcement on Paxton. But if you haven't yet, like I said, be subscribed, comment done. You will be eligible for that Ohtani number 17 jersey. Remember, nothing brings us together quite like Dodger baseball. And until next time, think blue, bleed blue.